Hit the shit.
As Steve is shaking his head there. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Mac Yak, number 183. Say hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
So, what you guys been up to this week? And we're going to throw it over to Mike first. He's got a couple of announcements he wants to make, so we'll get those knocked out.
Why don't you do me last?
See, Dad, you wanted to do the announcement.
Well, it's just I'm going to take longer than everyone else, so do me last.
Okay.
Because I
then,
have multiple things to take care of here.
Since Dana's got nothing, what do you got there, Dana?
Steve and I both have nothing. Go, Mike.
Well, I'll spend some time.
Yeah, go for
I've
it.
been tinkering around with some things. I got some documentation in the mail I gotta scan. This is for a Mac Pro Plus keyboard, which is from Keytronic. It's an interesting keyboard because it has an ADB port, and it also has like the old Mac Plus connector on it too. So like your Mac 128, 512, etc. And there's the reason I wanted the manual is there are some dip switches on the bottom of these keyboards, because I had one of these keyboards without the manual, and it goes into details about what they do. If I could find the darn page, so I thought it would be interesting to scan, because there are similar manuals out there, but they are not exactly for this model.
Yeah.
So just one of those things I got to scan in, but thought that was neat. These keyboards are pretty much all over eBay. Some of them are more expensive than others. Not really the best to type. They're a bit mushy.
I'm going to say
But if-
Keytronics aren't usually the greatest.
Yeah, but I mean, if you don't want to spend $200 for like a Mac Plus keyboard, then I think it's a reasonable substitute. You could also get an adapter or whatever, but yeah. So that's what I've been tinkering with, and then we'll talk about something else we've been tinkering with later in the show. I got to put my pin on. Hold on.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll go next.
Well, that's a
here.
very appropriate pin.
You have a book pin?
What does it say?
I
can't stand PCs.
Well, that's exactly what I was just getting ready to talk about, because that's what I've been doing this past week. Is I just basically put a PC together for me and my wife. We play a game called Rust, and so I've been tinkering around with making my own server, and been having fun with it actually. Cobbled together a PC, and it works fine. So, Mike, it's all on you now. Everybody else has already talked.
So, first of all, for everybody who's in the chat or those who are watching at a later date, next month is VCF, the Vintage Computer Festival East in Wall, New Jersey. So we are all going to invade Steve, and we're all going to steal everything in his basement so his wife can quit complaining. So as we clean out his basement,
That ain't gonna solve it.
we are going to be located at the Info Age Museum, which is located at Camp Evans in Wall, New Jersey. Yes, that is actually a location. It is called Wall, New Jersey. It is in Wall Township. So I am not crazy. This is New Jersey we're talking about. So Camp Evans and the Info Age Museum is also the home of the Vintage Computer Federation. If you have not donated anything today, please donate the lump sum of your 401k to them, please. They are awesome people. So we got what I'm hoping is going to be the finalized floor plans for the VCF East event. And I would like to announce that they sold out of exhibitor spaces in record time this year. So if I can add this, add to stream. So we are located in the lower section this year. So if anybody has ever been to VCF, it's 3 separate rooms for exhibitor spaces, and then everything else is in a separate building. So the previous 2 years we've been in what they call the dining room, which is the main exhibit hall on the upper level. So this year we're in the lower level, which is bigger, because we got 4 tables this year, and we are actually right across from the 8-bit guy. We are actually going to be right here where it actually says behind the scenes, but we're switching. These 2 exhibits are switching back and
I
forth.
can't see your
Oh, okay,
mouse.
so we'll be in the middle then. You mean?
Yes, we're going to be in the
Oh,
middle,
there we go.
right next to Chris Lenderman, who everybody might recognize as RetroTech Chris.
Oh, see,
Mhm.
this table could. Oh, okay, I see. Right behind us. Never mind.
Yeah, and then at the end of this island is going to be the one and only Colin Mister.
Ooh.
So we're going to be in very good company in this center island.
A computer per table. That's what you tried to do the first time. I showed up late, and Sean and Mike already had their crap spread out, and I had one little 3/4 of a table.
So I asked for 4 tables this year because 3 the last 2 years has always been quite cramped.
Yeah.
Mainly because somebody by the name of, I don't know, Sean, usually takes up 2.5 on his own with all his crazy crap that he brings.
Yeah,
So,
dingus.
so if the 4 goes well this year, I may even try for 5 next year.
I think we'll be okay with 4 because
But either
if we-
way,
sorry.
well, I was going to say either way. Besides Ryan Schiff, who if I remember correctly, I think he's bringing a Cray supercomputer this year.
Did they have to remove the roof to install it?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Cray.
Well,
Like-
this is yes, like a Cray. I don't know if it's the actual like Cray 1. He does have a Cray 1.
Jeez.
So I don't know if that's what he's bringing, but I seen something that said Cray, and he's basically taking up this entire back wall. So, with the exception of that, we are actually one of the biggest exhibits this year. So it'll be very exciting to see.
I have a plan. Let's just sell Sean to the History of Unix table that's just
Okay.
across from us, and then we'll just steal his spot. And just
Yeah,
Wait,
works for me.
is this true?
well, that's VCF Midwest more like. 'Cause they have like a hotel space and everything. This is
I was going to
this
say
is-
Midwest is probably a little more lit than East because there is sort of lodging on the premises, but yeah, they don't allow alcohol or anything like that. So
yeah. Midwest was basically you can't stay in the convention center, but you could go into the like the what was the word for it? It was like
you don't
the
have to
catering
stop, but you
hall.
can't stay here.
Yeah, and it was basically like a bunch of little round tables and a very poor excuse for what would be food. But hey, it was a party. It was fun. But
So-
no, yeah, that looks great, Mike.
Yeah, I wanted to share that with everybody so that everybody knows where to find us. It will be me, Sean, and Steve, of course. So, as always. 2, I would like to announce, even though it's not here, that Prada turns 13 today. Today is his birthday.
Aw.
Nice.
So,
Up until
Happy
a year
birthday.
ago, it would have been her birthday.
the hairball is now 1 year older, and he's just as stupid as ever. And 3, we're going to play Schrodinger's box.
What's in the box?
As soon as I open the box, there's going to be a cat in it. I guarantee it. So who wants to see what's in the
See,
box?
Mike
What's in the
doesn't
box?
see. He won't get that reference. I tried that earlier with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he doesn't know that.
You gotta watch 7.
Yeah,
Oh, I saw a flap.
If there's a cat in there, it's probably suffocated.
You crazy man, you.
Ooh.
had to- You
I'd
had
like
to
to
join the club.
announce that for the first time in my life, I bought a brand new computer off the shelf.
Ha!
This has never in 45 years happened.
I think
This,
Greg's
by the
gonna
way,
fall
is
over.
the most expensive freaking box I've ever bought in my life.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
This thing was not cheap, but
yay, financing.
it will be a very welcome upgrade to the shack here. And the story behind this, and this is the one I'm sticking to, is that being a Mac centric channel, I was embarrassed. I mean, utterly devastated by the fact that the fastest computer in my house was a PC. And it was kind of embarrassing that I have to stream off of a 8th gen i7 laptop. So now I will be streaming from a Mac Pro
Oops.
Oh, yeah.
that I'm
I was
currently
hitting
using.
at the same time.
I currently have a 5.1 Mac Pro with a single 3.06 gigahertz 6-core processor with 64 gigs of RAM, an RX 580 video card, USB 3, PCIe SSDs, and all kinds of shit. It's well upgraded. I spent way more money than a normal sane person should have. So, yes, somebody actually loaned me money. Can you believe it?
His
Because believe me,
employer.
this thing is financed up the ass. But it's actually I got really good financing terms on it.
So what are the
Yeah.
specs on it?
This is the low end model.
Okay.
This is actually the same exact one Steve has, except that Steve got the 1 terabyte storage, and I only opted for the 512.
No, I got the 2 terabyte because I'm an idiot.
So
You got 2 terabyte. Okay,
so
that wasn't even an option for me. I
So
it was
Mike-
either 512 or 1 terabyte.
I was gonna say Mike didn't even want to pay the Apple tax, right?
Oh God, no! It's like an extra.
The 1 terabyte was an
$400.
extra $1,000.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something crazy.
That's
every
insane.
tier is an extra $400. So I think I must have spent. I got a slight discount, but I think it was like $800 or something ridiculous for the. But I mean, I have. You're gonna laugh at this. I have 80 gigabytes of free space. So yeah, I have a
no,
problem.
I'm not gonna lie. I believe that wholeheartedly. I know you. You are a hoarder in more ways than one.
Yay!
Mine's
Wait.
refurbished, so I was able to spring for the bigger hard drive.
Yeah,
So
I'm
Yeah,
surprised
that
you didn't get
means-
a refurb one, Mike.
That Jay
I couldn't.
and myself are the only two without an M1 or M series Mac.
Yeah. And since Mike is now replacing his 5.1, that means wherever Jay is right now, he just started crying for no reason.
I actually did tell Jay because Jay wasn't going to be here.
Oh, okay.
I don't think Jay's crying right
Did he start crying?
No.
Do you start crying?
Poor
He was actually
5.1.
quite interested. He, believe it or not, Jay was actually extremely interested on how I was able to acquire this because it's not like I have thousands of dollars just laying around.
Right.
What are you talking about? You gave me three grand yesterday.
You wish.
I
So-
do.
He's not so much interested for himself, but he is interested for Wendy. Because
Yeah,
of-
but it's
Yeah.
for Wendy, not him. He's not going to.
she would actually have more of a use for such a device than he would.
Oh yeah.
And this
I
is
think
the best
he's
freaking
I think
box
he's
in the
got
world.
his eyes on an M2 Mini for her. I think.
He was actually quite surprised I didn't go for an M2, but I figured, well, the studio is considered top of the line.
Well, yeah, I think
I'm replacing a top of the line computer with it, so
Yeah, I mean Bruce is testing with his. I don't know if he did all like the Thunderbolt buses or anything yet. I mean,
Oh, that's right.
I know the studio has independent controllers for it. I know the Mini says it has X amount of buses in the profiler, but I don't know how they're split up with the chips. Either
I
way,
don't know anything about Thunderbolt, so
yeah. Either way, I mean, you'll get an SD card on the front and some extra USB ports and stuff. And I haven't had an issue with this machine. I've been stupid happy with it, so I'm looking forward
Yeah,
to seeing how
Bruce
you
just
experience.
reminded us that Jay is getting an M1, and it's the one that he didn't want.
Oh yeah, okay, this is great. So
Oh,
Jay's been complaining because he had to use a PC for his employment, and we all just rip on him because that's the funniest thing in the world. The most anti-Windows guy ever is forced to use a PC. So he gets a hair up his ass, and he's trying to convince them to get a Mac, and he has this cunning plan and everything, and he's gonna write an email to so and so and ask for this and that. And what does he get? A freaking MacBook Air, his most hated Apple product
The
ever.
bane of his existence.
The
other
bane of
than
his
Windows.
existence. And when he said that, I couldn't stop laughing. I couldn't even have a witty response in the chat. I was just like, this is too perfect.
oh, I didn't hear
You only
that.
drive
I didn't hear
one
that about a
external
MacBook
display
Air.
on
That
it.
is-
Yeah. Yeah, he gets an error.
oh man.
That's hilarious.
Well, it's funny. It's because he kept poking. He said, let me see if I can poke the bear more, and see if I could get
That's
something
what you get.
better."
They're going to give him an older Air, just
Probably one he's probably going to have to repair when he gets it anyways. Watch.
they'll give him an 11-inch Air. Just
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's got all those monitors, so that doesn't really matter.
yeah, but you can only plug in one to an Air.
Yeah.
I thought it had Thunderbolt. I thought you could plug multiple.
No, it even the Apple Tech Note says, despite it having Thunderbolt and no matter how many hubs and adapters, you can only plug in one. Now there is some third-party software you could maybe get around that, but it's
Wow,
not free.
that's a swift kick in the nads.
Damn right it is.
I'm glad I didn't opt for a MacBook Air. I did consider it.
Bag of spaghetti. Got some
Well, it
good
goes-
processing power on that spaghetti. Mamma mia.
It'll go with his meatball.
Well, that's funny because one cat is meatball, the other cat is spaghetti.
Exactly. Yeah.
So now I have twice the spaghetti.
All right, someone has audio interference. Hopefully it's not me.
Test. I hear it too.
I hear it too. Yeah.
Oh, it might be me.
It's my.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's me.
Announcement's
that
over.
that new computer will fix the audio.
All right, so let's go ahead and start moving on to.
Now I
our
can't hear him at all.
Pseudo topics. Oh, he muted it. So, all right,
Oh.
he's back. So Steve, you got something that you've been working on there, and I saw a stream. In fact, I watched most of that stream. Tell us a little bit about that one.
Sure, as I blurry to get the pictures up. So
You're not
ages
prepared.
never, ever. Ages ago, I had acquired an Apple interactive television box, otherwise known as a set-top box. I actually got it from MacFX, and this was like 2006, 2007, ages ago. I had a full head of hair, different times, and
Less stress.
less stress.
No mic.
Didn't even know my wife at the time.
Didn't even have a rabbit or
Didn't
or a
no
house.
no rabbits. I was living at my parents, and so it's not the set-top box prototype that you usually see. This is an earlier one. These photos are courtesy of Grant Hutchinson, which had helped me with the hard drive image and such. But
So it's not the black one.
no, this is this
Ooh.
weird gray box, very prototypey looking. Has a big status light and an IR sensor on the front,
Okay.
and it's basically an LC475 prototype board with the PDS slot pointing in the reverse direction. So it points down instead of up. And that's so it could plug into this board, which has all these fancy MPEG decoding chips and IO ports and everything on it. So again, beautiful pictures by Grant. Thank you very much for sharing those with me. I'd asked him to take some photos and he did not disappoint at all. You can see there's some minor corrosion by this network controller chip there, which mine is doing the same exact thing. So I'm going to have to recap mine. But essentially, I got this thing ages ago. And the only life I could get out of the darn thing was to just plug in the LC board by itself into a monitor with a power supply from another LC. And, it just worked like a regular LC. But I was kind of never satisfied with that. I wanted to see how it could work with the rest of this box. But whenever I tried, the power supply that runs this box is a Macintosh 2 SI power supply. Now, they're known to leak like a sieve. But
Yes.
back in the day, there was an eBay store. I think it was like called Old Mac Mill or Old Mac Milt or something like that. And I ended up ordering a 2 SI power supply from them. And, they claimed it worked, but I could never get this thing to power on. There's no, to my knowledge, no switch, no button or anything like that. If anybody knows if there's a switch or a button or some way to jumpstart this thing, let me know. But during the live stream the other night, I figured out, thanks to a bunch of friendly people in the comments section, that obviously this power supply has standby power and it's a soft power supply. So if you ground the 5-volt standby and the ground, it should turn on. So I wired a button to that so I could do that. And then by fiddling around with the potentiometer located here, whether by design or just by dumb luck, I figured out if you turn that potentiometer while you're jump starting it, the machine will stay on. So you don't have to hold that button there, which I thought was very interesting. So I got the LC board recapped. That worked fine. And then it was trying to figure out how to get this thing to work. Now, where I'm at currently is if I plug the LC board into this board, I was never able to get it to even do anything because the power never worked. But by triggering the standby power, I could now power the LC board, which gets its power from this black power socket at the bottom. It's like, the same socket that a LC power supply would go through. So, the power goes through the set-top board and then goes to the LC board. And got it to chime, got it to try and boot. And now the issue is it's holding and stalling at the startup screen where you get the gray screen, but there's no rounded corners, no cursor. So something is seriously screwed up in the boot process where it's like, I don't know what to do, which is concerning. But there is a ROM on the board here. I don't know how that plays into it, but the LC that I have has a ROM slot and it wasn't filled. So I don't know if a prototype ROM or some type of instruction was required to use this sort of thing. I'm only working with the pieces I got, but hopefully we could get this thing to function a little bit better. I'm going to try and recap the set-top box board, see if that helps. But that's my little update for this thing. I was really very curious about it for eons. And so to get any signs of life out of it just makes me thrilled. So, and again, great pictures here. The only one thing I want to add to one of these photos here is that there is a floppy drive that sits on the lid. I do have it somewhere else in the basement, but I'm trying to get to the picture of,
Well, that could be anywhere.
Yeah, I know where it is, but
Okay.
it sits like this. So the floppy drive sort of pokes at the back there. Yeah, so it's
For, like,
interesting.
Updates and things.
Yeah, I guess I guess they were testing the boot functionality of this, but Grant was the one that supplied me with the hard drive image, and so the hard drive photo you saw here somewhere, that's the actual hard drive that he imaged, and he sent me a copy of it and said I could use it and share and do all this awesome stuff. So it's cool. It says STB1 System 7.1 NTSC on it. And there's a bunch of cool, like weird kiosk type videos and stuff. Not everything is working because of that MPEG decoder chip that is obviously not communicating to the LC board correctly. But anyway, hopefully I could get some more progress on that. Very excited about this, and just wanted to chat about that because my goodness, it's been a long time getting that to work. That breaks the Quadra record easily. So
it makes for a very long stream too, right?
Oh yeah.
How many of these things exist?
I heard about 200 or so or less.
Oh, that many. Oh,
well,
okay.
One of the names of this thing was called I think Optimus 200 or something like that. So that's what I inferred from that. I mean, there could be 10. I really have no idea.
I didn't know if maybe somebody was like, I know sometimes there's places where I would say, oh yeah, anybody's got an STB, put it here, and I didn't know if. I mean, these are all prototypes, right?
Yeah, these are all prototypes. There's a retail version that was actually used in hotels and stuff like that. That looks much more streamlined to this. It has a finished box and everything. That is not that's the Model 3. This is the Model 1. This has a label that says 10 on it. I don't think mine has a label, but I would, if I were to guess, I would probably assume there are probably a dozen or so of these made. That would be an estimate. I don't think there's more than my initial assessment of like based on the number I heard, but it just looks that way. The box is very just put together. It's like a project box. They use an off-the-shelf power supply and things like that. So yeah, there are probably a dozen or so around. But I if you look up the Wikipedia, you see my photos there because for the longest time I was the only one who had a digital camera. I was like neat and took pictures of this thing back like 15 years ago. So
it's still pretty cool though.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh, it's the grandfather of the Apple TV. It's like, no, it's kind of different, but sure.
It was probably what kind of kicked them off to start it, but I don't think it was anything near what an Apple TV can do.
No, I mean, its entire purpose was kind of like a web TV internet appliance type deal. So, it was meant to be some sort of, mix between you could use some internet functionality and multimedia stuff on your television. But, it was for conferences and hotel rooms and stuff like that, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. All right. So our next subject tonight is I found this a couple of, I think it was like last week or a week before. I found an article where Apple will probably severely limit the USB-C on the newest iPhone. And what I mean by that is what they're talking about doing is they're going to make it where they're going to require you to have a cable with the little chip that talks to the iPhone to make it function properly. And it will probably only still go at the same speeds as the Lightning, which to me is kind of dumb, but it's something that Apple wants to do, But anyways, part of this, the reason why they're having to do the USB-C first off is because the EU is making all these phone manufacturers go to USB-C. So Apple's remedy to this is, we'll put USB-C on there, but you'll have to buy our cables to charge your phone properly or to transfer data.
So basically, it's a middle finger to the EU.
Yes. In fact, they say that you can still use a regular USB-C cable, but it won't charge as fast. It won't. The data won't go as fast either. So they're basically trying to make it this MFI made for iPhone type deal. like they did for the the lightning cables and stuff. So, any thoughts on that? What we think about this?
Yeah, stop being dicks.
Yeah.
Well, it's obviously because they get licensing money from those proprietary, made
Which
for
they so
iPhone
desperately
programs.
need, don't they?
Of course, that's their bread and butter. Before that program. Now, to be honest, before that program, anybody and their mother could have made an iPhone or iPod connector cable thing, and they were garbage. And sometimes they would fry your phone because they weren't using the right thing, and it was all copied of some other connector and all this crap. So the program had its merits, but the whole point of USB-C is it's universal. Now, I'm going to guess that there's going to be caveats to using a non-Apple designed thingamajig, but I'm wondering about like how true this rumor is, because if you look at like the MacBook chargers, they use USB-C. But you could go and buy an Anker charger or whatever, and you still charge the damn MacBook just as it would. Now, I understand the iPhone a little bit different. It's not a full-fledged computer, although Apple likes to,
But-
say it's so fancy. One second.
I know.
But I don't know if you do, but they're like gonna limit it in some way, maybe. But I would be very disappointed, not surprised, just disappointed if they really lock this stupid thing down, because that defeats the whole damn point of it.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't really kind of believe this rumor in a way because, and this is the reason why, is because their iPads use USB-C right now, and you can actually use any cable on it. There's no limit to those. So why would Apple make an iPad with USB-C with no restrictions or anything like that, but yet make an iPhone that has restrictions on it? I mean, I don't see why Apple would do that. Only to, like Dan said about Apple just wants to be turds.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things where the USB-C standard, there's all these handshakes going on. If I plug an older speed USB generation device into the chip, and the USB chipset does a handshake and all this stuff. Now, maybe through their special USB series chip or whatever in this phone, they could say, okay, well, let's say to use a video out or some other cockamamie thing, we're going to make you buy like X speed cable or this cable from us or whatever. But I'm just wondering, I'm not putting it past them. I'm sure they'll figure out a way to do it. I'm wondering how they would actually like enforce that when it's such an open standard that, like people are saying in the chat, somebody could hack it or just spoof an ID of a USB device. Then it's like, oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, but then again, it's Apple's cash cow. They've been making probably billions out of these license fees from every manufacturer who wanted an iPhone compatible cable. Maybe they're just going to do this as a way of, that's going to be the fastest one. That'll charge, your iPad the fastest, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, like you said, Steve, the MacBooks use USB-C, and it's the real USB-C standard. I mean, you can run a display off of it, everything else. But why the iPhone has to be different? I just don't. I don't understand Apple's thought process on this, except that let's just be dicks and sell more Apple stuff.
Well, like Dan is saying, maybe it's a safety feature. Maybe it's to limit the amount of power input or power output from that device. Because, for years we've had Lightning USB adapters and SD card readers. And for the longest time, you couldn't use those on anything but an iPad, So maybe this rumor, there's a stem of truth in there of some type of control chip to make sure, you're not plugging in a 50-watt charger into your iPhone and making the battery swell up like a pillow,
Well, I mean, to be fair though, I mean, putting a 50-watt charger on there is not going to. The problem is that the device is only going to use as much power as it needs. You could put a 1,000-watt power supply on it, and if it's only going to draw 5 watts, that's all it's going to take off of it.
Next week on MacGack, Greg's going to plug in a 1.2 gigawatts charger into his iPad.
It's the same thing as when I tell people about the MacBook chargers, okay, the old MagSafe, okay, before they came out with the new MagSafe. The old MagSafe, you had different, wattages for different MacBooks. I always recommended getting the higher wattage one for even a MacBook Air or something, because to be honest with you, the charger would run cooler because you're not drawing as much power off of that brick than what you need, because the computer automatically controls how much power it's drawing no matter what. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and a lot of the smart adapters are designed in a way for
Mm-hmm.
that. I mean, like ever since the third or fourth gen iPad, they use the 10-watt, 12-watt chargers or whatever, and if you put a slower charger on it or a faster one, it's going to accommodate that. But yeah, so I guess we only have to wait and see with this. Obviously, they're going to have some sort of control. It's Apple; they have a walled garden approach. Only thing I care about with this: give me faster than USB 2.0 speeds for downloading photos and backing up my phone. I know it's not going to happen, but give it to me.
Yeah, Dan's exactly right here. The reverse is silly, like how you can plug my laptop in an iPhone charger and basically nothing will happen. And that's because you can't pull as much power off of that little iPhone brick than you can off of a real, adapter. And that is true. It's not going to do anything. That's like trying to plug an iPad into an iPhone charger. It's going to charge, but it's going to be very slow.
On day 3 of the iPad charging.
Exactly. Because it's only going to pull that max amount of wattage, and that's all it can draw.
Yeah. So I guess we'll wait and see. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me for them to do something to get a few more pennies out of that MiFi program.
Yeah.
Or MFI, whatever it is.
But I think that this hopefully is a bad rumor. I hope that Apple doesn't go this way, but knowing Apple, they will.
Go back to SCSI for power delivery. That'll be fun.
There we go. All right. Let's see. The next thing we got on the list, something I found today, as a matter of fact. I don't know if a lot of people know this or not, but it was on the Apple Insider. I don't even have the link for it right now, but Outlook is now free. Microsoft is making Outlook free for Macs. So if you want to use Outlook, which I don't recommend because I think Outlook's a piece of garbage, but if you like Outlook, you can actually download it for free now and use it on your Mac.
Yay.
That's what I say. I don't even like it on a PC.
Yeah, it used to be, I think, $160 looking at this App Store. I mean, that might have been with the subscription.
It was with the 365, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this says one PC, 50 gigabytes of free. Yeah, so this is the subscription thing, but the app itself looks like it was $150 with 50 gigabytes ad-free inbox, blah, blah, blah. This would just be using the application, and then any email service would be completely different, depending on what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's one of those things where they've been having like Outlook as a premium thing for ages. I remember on Mac OS you got Outlook Lite or whatever that was. Yeah, for Mac OS 8.5 you had like a light version of it.
Outlook Express.
Express.
Oh, yeah.
Express, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't mind that.
Oh yeah, I mean, hey, that and Netscape Communicator had an email thing. They came in on your system, so if you needed an email client, you were off to the races. You had it, but yeah, I don't necessarily know if I never used Outlook outside of a corporate environment. I've always used like the webmail because whenever I was in a situation with a PC and it had an Outlook client, like there was always something wrong with the install of it. So like, well, screw it, just use the web client. Like it wouldn't refresh. It was totally stuff that was outside of Microsoft's control. It was just the crummy install or the instance we had at my office at the time. But my current job has it. We have webmail. It's fine. It's email. There's nothing too fancy about it. But I guess that's a barrier for entry because some people, even though Mac OS has Exchange support for email forever, which is the protocol that Microsoft uses for a lot of their Outlook instances, and your IT provider probably does that too for work and stuff like that. You could use Apple Mail for that, but a lot of people probably prefer Outlook, and it's cost a bit extra. So
well, I mean, like I said, I used to use Outlook when I was a contractor for the government, and that was the biggest bane in the world was using that because it was almost as bad as iTunes used to be, where they just bundled everything into Outlook. You had your calendar, you had all kind of stuff in there, and like Jay was saying earlier today in our chat was, it's just they got menus all over the place, and trying to find something is just it's just a pain.
Yeah.
Brr.
Sorry.
Someone wants attention.
I'm finding the link to this article, and the cat decided now would be a good time to get up and say, I exist. Pay attention to me.
I exist. I'm hungry.
I
feed me.
require
Feed
attention
me.
now.
I am pasting the link now. It was very long, so I had to shorten it. There's the
Okay.
article.
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of these software places are doing the subscription model as the way they could actually stay in business and all this crap. But I think more and more, these free applications are kind of vital for a lot of us because, hey, if I don't have, let's say, the latest and greatest Mac, or maybe I can't use mail, maybe I have some security thing or whatever that Outlook only likes, I'm not out of pocket just to use their email service, which I'm probably not even paying for. My company's paying for it, or whoever's paying for it.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's
I
good to
mean,
have another option. That's
I mean-
even if I don't use it, that's the way I look at it.
since we're kind of on the subject here, and we talked about this in our chat thread too, is I know everybody probably in this group has used Thunderbird before, which is basically Firefox's version of their mail client.
Yeah.
And I used to use that on the PC all the time until I got my first Mac, and then kind of switched to Mac Mail, the Mac Mail app, and never actually used anything else. I mean, I've grown to like it, But Thunderbird was a really good email client for it, for what it did.
Yeah.
And I really thought it was good. But are they still actually developing it?
I think so.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
In fact, that's what I used to install on my PCs to get a more mail.app like experience, because I was used to the way it laid out and the way it downloaded things and the features it had, and it was pretty comparable. I wasn't going to pay for Outlook at the time or some other email client, and it was free, and I liked Firefox, so I'm like, yeah, figures. So yeah, it's for Windows, Mac, and Linux. So holy crap, Dana!
I know. I don't know what the hell is wrong with him today. What do you want?
Put him on camera. He wants to be famous.
Come here. No? All right.
I like your shirt, Dana.
So how about you, Mike? What email client do you particularly like?
You guys,
We know that.
It's not Outlook.
I
Huh?
am the one holdout. I am still an Outlook user.
Ah,
So I've been using Outlook for decades. I actually
Jay-
like Entourage myself. But,
Oh gosh.
I think Jay-
should say I like some of the features of Entourage. The whole look and feel of it was absolutely ridiculous. But I did like some of the features they had in there. Of course, this is back in the early 2000s when news groups and all that stuff were still a thing,
well, yeah, I used to love the news groups. In fact, I think Thunderbird did news groups as well, so that was a plus with it, if I remember correctly.
I am currently looking at Thunderbird. I've actually been I've been looking around a little bit to get rid of Outlook, because I don't like the way it interacts with Gmail. It's a nightmare.
Okay. Well, I mean, I haven't had an issue with my email client with Gmail at all, except now that Gmail, whenever you log into a new device, it wants to get a code from the Gmail app on your phone in order for you to use it. It's like the two-factor authentication now. So
You have that enabled? I was going to hack into your email. Damn it.
Nope. You're not going to be able to do that. Sorry.
Well, Outlook constantly loses its connection with Google, and I constantly keep having to re-authenticate all of my because I have multiple Gmail accounts. I have 2 personal ones, and then I have one for work as well, because my whole company runs off of Google Cloud. So we all have Gmail. I mean, we have our own domain, but it's all done through Gmail. So I'm constantly having to re-authenticate with them. And it's just a real pain in the butt.
Wow, Eudora. Oh,
yeah, I remember that.
I have a boxed copy of that somewhere. It's on floppies.
I remember that.
And Lotus. Yeah. Oh God.
God,
yeah, my one of the first companies I worked at, they had Eudora, then they switched to Lotus Notes, and they switched to Gmail. And I was one of the lucky souls that was a Google guide to helping people switch from Lotus Notes to Gmail. What a bloated piece of crap Lotus Notes was. Holy crap.
God.
Thing would take 10 minutes to boot up, and everything was like had its own database and this and that, and it was just complete garbage. You'd start up email in the middle of the day because it would crash like 5 times since you booted up in the morning. And we were all running Windows XP. It wasn't a best environment for anything. But you mix Lotus Notes into the mix, and it's like, oh yeah, there's some Java update. Oops, your email doesn't work. Fat chance getting it work again the rest of the day.
Yep.
You just throw the
She keeps getting on my laptop. I have 2 screens going here, then I have my laptop sitting here that I monitored the actual YouTube stream on, and she keeps laying on it and pulling the keys off the keyboard.
Well,
that's
see,
Toshiba?
Mike, once you get that studio set up, you won't have that problem no more because you can monitor and stream at the same time.
what
Why
I'm
do
going to
that
suggest.
now?
What I'm going to suggest Mike do, because I noticed it on my studio, and this right here, there's not too much dust in this room, but I noticed after I was moving around pieces of my desk and my cables and junk that there was quite a lot of dust around, the intake fan on the studio. And I know Mike has a little more dust than I do because of his cats, obviously, no fault of his own. But I would suggest get like some sort of like a mesh or a netting or whatever and just surround the bottom of it, because that way the dust will stop there and it won't get as much into because my fear is opening that stupid thing up and clearing out the dust in a few years, So
you know what you need to do? Get one of those hairnet things, put it on the bottom.
yeah, there you go.
Hey,
I was going to suggest some 3D printed garbage, but there you go. That's better.
I mean, they're cheap. You buy a bunch of them. And when they get dirty, you just take it off, put a new one on.
Who remembers this?
Pine.
I don't remember that one.
I don't remember that one either.
Text-based email.
Oh boy. Well, see, all right. Let's
Like
start
before
this.
browsers, when people used links and Telnet.
Well,
Pine-
remember,
Pine
know
was
what-
an email service.
Let's
here's
go
it.
around and let's talk about our first email service and
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Danny, you started. So
Yeah, it was when I was at college. They had just installed like a campus-wide internet sort of thing, I guess. But then everything was accessed through Telnet because there were no web browsers yet. This is early. Well, when was this? Yeah, this was late 1994 into early 95. So you use Telnet or you use Gopher or all these other different text-based ways of getting around the net. And then Pine was the email service, and you literally use key commands like Control E would check your email, Control N was send a new email. And that was fun. And then I think halfway through the year, they put new Power Macs, which at the time were the first gen Power Macs, the old like 7100s, and they bought a whole bunch of those and put them in the student union, and then installed Netscape 1.0N. So, and Mosaic, they had Mosaic on them. That was an old browser, and that was like night and day. It's like nobody used the text-based stuff after they installed that.
So, Mike, how about you and your first email?
Oh, I don't know. When did I first? Well, I mean, we had email when I was in high school, but it was just within the school, not outside the school because there was no real internet. And this is like '94, so we just had a NetWare server, and we could send messages to and from teachers, and teachers could send them to us, stuff like that. But I don't know. I've always used Outlook. I've never really used that. I started with Outlook Express with like Explorer, I think 4, I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was because they started to bundle it, I think, with Windows 98. And so I just kind of stuck with that. because I just had regular pop email. So
I think I remember that with Windows 9. Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, because you got Internet Explorer and then you
Mhm.
got Outlook Express, and then we were using. So we had internet through GTE, the phone company at the time. This is dial-up days, and they're Verizon now. And they used to give us these discs that had like the most up-to-date Internet Explorer and Outlook Express and stuff like that on them. And that's just always what I've used. That's why I still use it. I'm I am a person who's very stuck in his ways sometimes. And you would think, you would think somebody who is as kind of into technology as I am, that I would be, trying the latest and greatest. Sometimes the stuff I've been using for 20 years just works for me, So, hey, what are you gonna do?
So how about you, Steve? What's your first email? You're muted.
Smoke
You're
signals.
Sorry.
Nah.
My first must have been AOL,
Mm.
because we had a AOL subscription pretty early on. So my old AOL email was the first one I got. I must have had a few others, like Excite email and Hotmail and because back in the day, when to get you to sign up for email, they would give you something like WebSpace, like 20 megs of GeoCities or Angel Fire or whatever. They would give you something, so you'd have to make an email. So I had like an AOL Instant Messenger one. These are all long gone. I can't even log into those services anymore. But the email that I started using very heavily in the early 2000s was the Apple iTools email. So it was free. I think they gave you 25 megabytes of email storage, which was not too bad back in the day because it was free. And then that eventually switched to, the iTools switched to .Mac, which was $100 a year subscription. Then it was MobileMe. Then now it's iCloud. But I use that as my primary for ages. And when my friend got, because Gmail used to not be open, it was like an invite only type thing. A friend of mine was invited to Gmail, and he was showing it to me. It was a webmail type thing. I'm like, oh, that's neat. The iCloud, the .Mac webmail at the time was atrocious. You'd have so many things would just like error out. If you tried to load it on anything but like Safari, it would just like blah, like it looked like garbage. It wasn't responsive. It was very, very weird. And so, I loved the fact that Gmail was sort of optimized for any browser. So as soon as I got access to that, I hopped on that bandwagon. I've been using that since pretty much it came out. I would always still use my iCloud one or my .Mac one, and I still have it, just for connecting to some services. But as far as clients go, it was always the Apple Mail app. I didn't really find a reason to use anything else. Every preference I had was sort of based around that. So whenever I would have a job or something that gave me another client, I'm like, ugh, I don't like it, But that's just my experience.
Yeah. Well, mine, I think I'm pretty much going to have you guys all beat as far as the oldest one, and that is I used to use FidoNet.
Oh my God, Bruce!
I don't know if anybody remembers FidoNet.
FidoNet.
Bruce does. It basically was back in the day when you had dial-up bulletin board services. This is like around the time of CompuServe, right before CompuServe and all.
Oh yeah.
Prodigy. I ran my own BBS, so basically you got on FidoNet, and that's how you sent email around. And it was pretty slow back in those days because what happened was you would get on the BBS, the local BBS. You'd write your email to who you wanted to send it to. If it was pretty much around the world, you could send it anywhere in the FidoNet network. But let's say it went across the country. What would happen is that would sit on my system and it would send it out to the local hub. So I would send that email out to the local hub. Then it would go around midnight or so, because when the dial-up times were cheaper for long distance back in the day, some of you kids today don't remember long distance. So it was expensive. So what
I remember getting yelled at for using long distance numbers.
Yeah. So what would happen is that the hub would send that out at the middle of the night to the next hub. the higher up hub, and then it would just basically it would take almost 12 hours for you to get an email from point A to point B, because it would go through so many hops and it would have to go through each different distribution center. It wasn't like the internet we have today where you could send it through multiple different routes. It was basically routed through one different way, and it got to where you needed it to. But it was the first time I ever used it, and it was actually pretty fun to send stuff, but it wasn't as instantaneous as email today. So it's like, today you send an email and then you call or text the person, hey, did you get my email? So it was pretty cool to use that stuff back then. And it was fun to do.
Bruce.
Hello.
I know you joined because you wanted to brag about your first email service.
Did I? No, I didn't.
Hi.
I thought I would pop in and say hello because I had a few spare minutes between projects. So, yeah.
So we were talking about our first email service and the software.
Well, I think Bruce's first email client was probably Smoke Signals.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I am older, but my age didn't actually dictate the starting of the internet. So I
think I'm a little older than Bruce, though. So
I sort of probably my very first email account that I had was through the internet service provider that I was using, which was at the time was a company called Zip. So I had an email address. It was like bruce@zip.com.au. So, they don't look for them. They don't exist anymore. But yeah, as I say that. So when I very first got onto the internet, the concept of actually having to dial in to a provider, that provider, the one that I chose, and I chose it based on something I read somewhere about them being a good provider. And of course I would have been using almost definitely the email thing that came with Netscape or Eudora, one of those two, something like that. So hello to Dan in the chat. Hello. Have you looked in that box yet? Did you get all the treats I put in there? Just want to check the box. Was in the box. The treats in the box. I put treats in there.
How many spiders are stowaways, Dan? Let us know.
I don't know. After seeing that video of the spiders up in the sky there, I don't think I want to go to Australia now.
Nope.
Yeah. Well, there in particular, there are some particular types of spiders that build great big nests of webs up in the canopies of trees. And there was
those were no trees there. They were just There was this is actually a true story. When my dad, who was a teacher, was taking kids on an excursion through sort of a park like that, and a person was throwing their pen up in the air, and then they threw it up at one point and it didn't come down again because it got stuck up in a spider's web that was above them. So filming tonight, I'll be able to tell you shortly. Good. Okay, excellent. Good to hear. I figured that he probably hasn't opened it because when being a fancy YouTuber like myself, you can't just open boxes. You have to set up a camera and then open the box. That's just how it works.
Hey guys, I can open up this box here. Remember to smash that.
Exactly. Hey, what's up, guys?
Got to have a burp or a fart in there somewhere.
Well, I tried to fart, but the noise canceling might have canceled it out. I apologize.
But I mean, I can tell you the sort of the change in life. When you suddenly are sending people emails and sort of looking things up on the web. Because one of the interesting thing was that at the company that I work for, we had like a BBS setup so that customers could send us files. So people who had a modem could log into our thing and upload files. And it was a thing called First Class. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it.
Was it Code Professor was talking? Yeah, they used that.
Yeah. So, and First Class was a really slick piece of software. So yeah, we had it running on a Quadra 950, and we had that set up, and so that anyone could dial in at any time. I think we only had one line, but we might have had two lines coming into that one, and you had the First Class server software, and then you would have the First Class client software, and you would send the client software out to your customers. And I mean, I think they even had the ability to download it somehow or other. Don't ask me how, that's ancient. I can't remember. And they would be able to log into our server, and then there would be folders. It was set up like a Finder. It was like a desktop Finder type thing. And you'd be a folder, and we would maybe set up a folder for that client, so they'd be able to open up their folder and then just drag files into it and it just copy across on the modem. So and that was, we were using that before, you know, the internet was kind of happening in a large scale. So
Okay.
Very
So
cool.
we've all had our experiences there with different email clients. So that's pretty cool. Well, guys, I think we're pretty much to the end here. We actually made it an hour. Imagine that.
It flew by.
Yeah. We always
Zoom.
find things to talk about. So, so has anybody got anything going on in the next week or so that they want to put out there?
I'm gonna be streaming after the show.
Ah, okay. So go over and check Mac 84 out.
I'll be watching. I am going to be
streaming.
I'll be filming a review video this weekend, so probably no stream for me unless I get some spare time. But I hope that my picture is looking a lot more Apple Silicon-y than the picture from the last show.
It's white.
Yes, it is white, isn't it? Yes. Because this is my first time Mac yakking from the little Mac Mini, you know, sort of M2 Pro.
How do you like it?
It's great. I mean, look, Ventura is a piece of dog shit. And I am just sitting here praying that they improve things. Now, there are a lot of things that people have complained about by the way the system preferences now looks more like System 6 control panel. But they have actually, even though I can't find anything anymore, they have kind of organized it in a more logical way now.
I can't find anything anymore.
They organize it.
Yeah.
That's my excuse. That's my excuse for the basement, Bruce.
I mean, this is the thing. For years and years and years of going exactly to the spot for where something is, and then it's like it's not here anymore. And then you find out where it is, and you think, actually, that's probably a more logical place to put it. I think when they went and redesigned it, they sort of said, look, okay, you know, we've been adding bits and pieces onto this thing here and there, and then they've just said, look, let's break this down and group things into a more logical fashion. But I mean, we're talking about since the beginning of like OS 10 type things. We're really having to seriously unlearn some stuff. So
20 years of muscle memory, you know.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and maybe it's the computer, maybe it's my peripherals, maybe it's Ventura, I don't know, but I have found it to be pretty buggy. So
I'm not upgrading. So
yeah, no, I'd hold off. But I went and bought myself the other day this. So I now have a 13-point USB 3.1 hub. So that's I'm well set up there, and I got.
Is it big enough?
Well, I've now got 3 spare ports on there, and I've never seen a spare port on this before in my office ever again. So ever before. So I'm really happy about that. So, and I bought a little USB-C hub as well. It's like this little guy. Oh, I've frozen.
Oh, you're
good.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I've just frozen on my
It's
computer.
ultra white
washed
on
out,
that
though.
box. Yeah, the box is washed out.
Well, who cares?
This is bizarre. It's completely frozen on my computer. So anyhow,
That's because you badmouth the OS.
yeah, I did. I mean, seriously, the whole computer is frozen.
But you're still going, and we can still hear you.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean,
You look fine here.
I just unfroze. There. So anyhow, you can't see it because I've all washed out, but you can kind of get the gist of a little thing like that that plugs in with the USB-C and then has 4 little USB-C ports. You can't use this for driving monitors. It's not actually a Thunderbolt thing. It doesn't power things, but you can use it for data transfer and hard drives and everything. So I'm pretty well set up. The funniest thing that happened with the new Mac Mini was it highlighted every single bottleneck. Because once I'm working on this computer that's flying, I have a spinner hard drive there, and I go to open it, and I go, "Oh," crap. And so I just went out and bought a whole stack of SSDs and started transferring everything across now. So because it was just, like on the old Mac Pro, when I'm sort of, if you're having to wait for something, you're used to it. You have to wait here, you have to wait there. But this thing, I mean, you just open stuff and it's bang, it's there. And so the moment you're having to wait, you're like, why am I waiting? What's going on? What? Where's the
what
weak
would
point?
drive
What?
me crazy? That's why I bought one of those external SSDs. Is I had my Final Cut Pro library on an external disk, and you're just getting that spinning ball so much. You're like, what the hell is going on here? And for whatever reason, Monterey does not like spinning disks, whether it's internal or external. And it just spins them down. Like after 2 seconds, like I would just had that file open. Nope, you don't need anymore. So I had installed this piece of software, as a funny name to it. What is it? Amphetamine. It's the piece of software, and it keeps the disk spinning. You could tell it to keep the disk mounted, which is a pain in the ass. You have to do something manually because there's clearly a bug. The Apple support forums are all filled with people saying it's going like nuts.
But I wonder if it's just on the Mac Studio, because I have spinners and Monterey on my Mac Pro, and they don't spin down.
Are you using? Well, that's internal.
Yeah.
I'm talking about external. It must be some USB communication.
And that's what I was thinking. It might be the USB, because I'm using the SATA connector. Yeah.
I have no clue. I mean, it's just stupid. So I'm using the SSD, but anytime I plug in one of these hard drives to do a backup or whatever, it's like spinning wheel. So like Bruce said, you'll find all the bottlenecks.
Maybe it powers down the USB port if it's not being used,
I literally, it's like you could count the amount of seconds it is. Like I open up a video file, I import to Final Cut Pro. Nope, you don't need that anymore. It's like, no, it's right there. Stop.
All right, guys. So anybody else got anything that they're going to be doing this week? If not, we are going to go ahead and visit us on Discord. We do have a Discord there. So there's the link. Go ahead and do that. Did you insult a gypsy lately?
Not that I know of.
All right, and we also make sure you hit that like button. And we haven't played that thing yet. So should we play the thing?
Smash that! Smash that like button!
Smash!
Yeah. All right, so make sure you hit that like button, guys, and if you can, hit that subscribe and that little bell icon. So, guys, we'll be back in 2 weeks. So
I'm streaming after this, so you better tune in, or I'm disowning all of you.
We'll be well.
All right, guys, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.
See you in the